The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good Monday morning. My name is Katie Carter with the National Weather Service in Wakefield. It is 10 a.m. on November 10th, 2025, and we are talking about our first snow of the season here in Virginia. Luckily, it's not going to be a very high impact situation, but certainly some very, very cold air behind it is going to impact everyone in the Commonwealth, even though the snow will not. So we do have winter weather advisories in effect for a few counties in Southwest Virginia. This winter weather advisory could bring anywhere from 1 up to very isolated pockets of 4 inches in some of our higher elevations. And that's really most of that accumulation is going to happen around after 7 p.m. tonight through the later evening hours. And again, totals will vary with elevation. Now, winds across the Commonwealth are going to be pretty gusty, but just pair that with the snow out west. Wind gusts could certainly reduce some visibilities, especially during the peak time where we see some of that higher snowfall rate, and gusts could be as high as 25 up to 35 miles per hour for those that are under that advisory. Now, there is also a chance for a very small amount of ice in the highest elevations tonight, although that will be very minimal and not really adding to the impacts that we will see from those that do have snow. Outside of Southwest Virginia, we'll see if we kind of get like the higher end potential of this little storm that we have going through. There is a potential for some very light snow flurries in central Virginia and portions of the Piedmont and even eastern Virginia, but little to no accumulation is anticipated. Now, beyond that, this is a very, very strong cold front. We already got that punch of colder air after the storms rolled through last night. But tomorrow morning, waking up, and particularly because it's going to be a really windy day tomorrow as well, we are going to be waking up statewide with wind chills in the single digits to the teens. Now, a few of us might be in the low 20s if we're lucky in the morning. That's going to be near the coast, but it is going to be very, very cold tomorrow morning. And for those who are still in the growing season, a lot of us have already ended their growing season. There are a few freeze warnings in effect just due to the cold that we are expecting overnight tonight, which will effectively end the growing season for the rest of the state. So here's a look visually at the counties here that are under the winter weather advisory. Again, those are in that periwinkle color out west, and this is for snow expected late this afternoon and evening. Really no significant impacts are expected unless you're in the very higher elevations of the mountains. But I guess I should say there definitely will be some slick spots on roads, particularly because it is the first snow of the season, and we all know how Virginians handle the first snow of the season. So there's also that. But the freeze warning is generally along and northeast, kind of southwest line from Mecklenburg County all the way up to the eastern shore and southeast of the city of Richmond for the freeze warning. Now, again, very cold punch of air with this system, but then once it exits, we're going to be seeing a relatively dry week ahead. So kind of much like last week, where we started off with some rainfall on Monday, this week we're starting off with very cold air and snow, and then the rest of our week is going to be pretty dry, much like last week, just much colder. So here's our expected snowfall map. I'll take a closer look at our snowfall rates and give you the timing a little bit better coming up here in just a moment. But this is just the statewide map. This is what we're expecting. So again, west of Lynchburg might see a little flurry, but when you really get, with Phil here in the southern portion of I-81, the higher elevations could be seeing up to 4 inches, but that's going to be very, very isolated. So most of the accumulating snowfall is going to be within the range to about 1 to 2 inches, with 3 to 4 possible a little bit higher up in the elevations. And you can see from the graphic on the right here, snow could start as early as afternoon with light flurries, but the darker of the snowflakes that you see, if you're looking at Blacksburg, from 3 to 6 p.m., you see sort of a darker blue there. That just means some heavier accumulating snowfall. So we're looking at some of the heavier accumulating snowfall to be from late afternoon through the evening hours, and then tapering off overnight. Now, the difference between the last graphic that you saw, because you see this graphic here, it doesn't have any snowfall in the Central Virginia, Richmond area. That's because that's the expected snowfall. And the difference between that and this graphic, if you'll notice at the top banner of this graphic, this is the high end amount. So this is if we happen to get that outlier a little bit more than we're expecting, there is a chance for a brief flurry or maybe even a quick little burst of snow possible tonight in central and even eastern Virginia. And notice the eastern shore is painting maybe even up to 1 to 2 inches possible on the higher end of things, but really little to no accumulation is expected here. Just kind of saying, don't be surprised if you see some snow flurries here in this area. And the timing for this is about 9 p.m. to early tomorrow morning, right before the sun comes up. Pair that with the extreme cold that we're seeing and our wind gusts, and it is going to be feeling very, very cold. We're not even technically in wintertime yet, but we're certainly going to be feeling it. So maximum wind gusts, I would say today, anywhere from 25 to about 35 miles per hour. But notice that tomorrow through about midday, noon, we're really cranking up those winds. So we get that shot of cold air, and then we're going to keep those sustained winds around out of the sort of west and northwest, drawing in that colder polar air and keeping around wind gusts in the 25 to 35, maybe even 40 mile per hour range. We'll drop a little bit through the evening hours, and then even Wednesday is going to be a pretty gusty day. So this is not going to help us feel any warmer. And then, as I alluded to at the beginning, very cold start. The kids at the bus stop, definitely going to be cold. You know, the type of weather you don't want to be stuck on the side of the road, even if there's not snow, if your car breaks down, it's definitely going to be very cold. So waking up tomorrow morning, you'll see some single digits, particularly west of Roanoke and, west of the Blue Ridge. So if you're in the northern Shenandoah, and then even interior locations of central Virginia and the Piedmont, all the way up to northern Virginia in the teens. And then if you're closer to the eastern locations, if you're a little bit closer to the buffer of the Atlantic or the Chesapeake Bay, you'll be on the, lucky side of things. You'll wake up with wind chills in the 20s, but still winds definitely going to be pretty strong. So beyond the next few days, today and tomorrow, certainly the coldest days of the week. In fact, tomorrow's high is going to tap out in the 30s and 40s. This is much colder than normal for this time of the year, but then we kind of get back to normal with highs in the mid 50s to near 60 for most of the rest of the week, Wednesday through Sunday. So just this cold shot of air today and tomorrow, and then we will recover from that. As I mentioned, very dry once we get past today. Our next rain chance isn't until Sunday of next week. And so this is really what we're looking at. In terms of 7-day, this technically says rainfall. This is precipitation. So it's liquid precipitation. It does technically include the liquid equivalent of what that snow will bring in the west. So this is the liquid equivalent. So if it says 0.08 107 in Roanoke, that's the melted down version of what the snow would be. But there is the chance for a few sprinkles in central Virginia through later this evening, and dry conditions, as I mentioned. Tropical weather, quiet, so at least we're thankful for that. We are winding down hurricane season because it is November 10th. We have 20 more days to get through for hurricane season. And I will leave you with this one graphic before I actually backtrack very slightly to just show you a more timing of the snowfall. But when we get into the mid to late November timeframe, November 15th through the 19th, the 6 to 10 day outlook for temperatures is actually above normal. So definitely much colder than normal now, but we're heading into a time where we will be seeing some milder weather and possibly a little bit higher chance for some precipitation. But as I mentioned, I do want to briefly backtrack and just leave you with the timing here. So this would be this was 7 o'clock, 8, 9, 10. So you'll notice that even by 1 o'clock this afternoon, really not much is happening. It's a late afternoon and evening type time frame that we're looking at. So you can see that, 5, 6, Here we are at 7 p.m. Between 5 to 7 is when we'll start to see the snow moving in into Southwest Virginia. Now, this is the time frame when it really begins that we'll see that initial punch of snow, and then maybe some flurries lingering into the overnight hours, but it's a pretty short window of accumulation. So we're looking at about 6 p.m. to say 10 p.m. for most of the accumulations, and then a few snow flurries lingering possibly a few hours after that, after midnight or so. But really, by the time we wake up, when we get to 12Z, there we go, that is 7 a.m. tomorrow morning. So you can really see that things are going to be long gone by then. So just a pretty short window overnight when we see that snow potential. Now, in terms of our snow peak, this is the last thing. I'm going to show up the heaviest snowfall amounts, or rates, I should say, are going to be in that time frame where we see most of the accumulating snowfall. So we could be seeing anywhere from a ½ inch to 1.5 inch per hour accumulations from 7 p.m. to 1 a.m. Pair that with the fact that it'll be dark and very windy, we could be seeing some periods of reduced visibilities. So I think that's also important in our messaging, that it's not like it's going to be a huge snowfall event by any means, but the fact that it's our first snowfall, it's very cold, it's very windy, it's dark, we'll see reduced visibilities. So I can see that being potentially an issue, especially locally in some of those higher elevations. But that is the rest of my presentation, pending any questions. I don't see anything, but I'll hang on for just one more minute to see if anyone else has anything. But thanks for joining.